I didn't start that earlier. Welcome. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, just please know that this is also a radio show. And so we're going to be taking some breaks. These are hard breaks that we must do before when we're recording. So if there's some distractions, or if we have to cut off at a certain time, please know that that's the reason why. But today we are learning about dementia and from Dr. Neal Barnard, and I'm really excited because this is a conversation that can't happen enough. We need to have these conversations of empowerment as many times as we can so that we can rewrite the tapes that tell us that we are going to get this. And so we need to rewrite it. And so I'm about to get started. So we can, I just want to make sure we're going to get our mutes mic'd, our mics muted, or I'm a little dyslexic this morning. Okay, and then we're going to hear the music, and then it'll be time to dance, everybody. So here we go. Did you get that mess?
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who have been tuning into the show since 2011, or maybe just saw that the show existed yesterday, welcome back. But if this is the first time that you've been tuning into the Lillian McDermott radio show, maybe you stumbled upon us on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, or found us on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, or you just stumbled upon whenyouneedafriend.com. Either way, just know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. And it is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. And so today we're going to be talking about a topic that we have shared with Dr. Neal Barnard before. And I'm excited that we get to revisit this because, as I said off the air, we need to have these conversations to rewrite the tapes in our head that tell us that we're bound to get this if it runs in your family. So I have a question to you. Does Alzheimer run on in your family? Are you thinking that there is going to be something that's going to happen to you that you, no matter what you do, which is the victim mentality, you will also get Alzheimer's or dementia? And is there a difference between the two? I really do. I've been hearing more and more about dementia and Alzheimer's and the differences between the two. But is there something we can do to prevent or minimize the symptoms, or maybe even reverse? Maybe it's not Alzheimer's, maybe it's not dementia, maybe it's some of the things that you're doing to cause this. And so once again, it is time to learn this new truth with Dr. Neal Barnard. He is a best-selling author, world-renowned New York Times best-selling author, researcher, activist, musician, and president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Dr. Neal Barnard is going to share what we need to know, the research that he's been able to share with us, that he will share with us today, that will empower us to change what we are told is going to happen. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Neal Barnard is here to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Barnard, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Hi, Lillian. Good morning. Great to see you again.
Good morning. Well, let's talk about this. You know, last time you were on, we talked about your wonderful new book called The Vegan Starter Kit, which people went crazy over, and you can find it in your local store or Amazon, or reach out to Dr. Barnard. But let's talk about food and how you got involved with food as medicine in your career.
I got to tell you, it's completely the opposite of how I grew up. I grew up not thinking about food at all. I grew up in North Dakota, in Fargo, for anybody who's been through that neck of the woods. And we ate kind of a typical American diet. You know, there was roast beef, baked potatoes, and corn. And then on special occasions, it was roast beef, baked potatoes, and peas. And that was like about it. I didn't really have a clue. But then, you know, getting into medical school, and then my residency and my work after that has really impressed. I have to say, I've been very impressed by the power of foods to do two things. One is to keep us healthy so that diseases are less likely to occur. But then the second thing is when diseases arrive, it's amazing what you can often do to turn things around, including things that you thought were completely out of your control, like heart disease or neurological conditions or hormonal conditions or things that affect the brain like dementia.
Yes, yes. And so as you've done the research, have you become more passionate about the way you eat and the way you prescribe for your patients as well?
Oh, all of the above. We have a clinic here called the Barnard Medical Center here in Washington, D.C. And when patients come in, just like every other clinic, they could get medication prescriptions or we could do procedures. But every single patient, no matter who they are, we have a look at what they're eating also. I mean, they might come here with a urinary tract infection that we treat with antibiotics. But before we leave, we'll say, you're going to feel better in about 10 days. But your foods can affect your lifelong health. So let's talk about that. So I think nutrition is key to all of it.
Absolutely. So as nutrition being key is of all of it, also our thoughts about nutrition. You know, many of us believe that, you know, that if our parents had dementia or disease, whatever kind of, we've talked about diabetes, we've talked about heart disease, we've talked about all these things that we think that we're going to get because our parents have gotten that diagnosis. And the reality is that we have got to rewrite the thought patterns. These thoughts that make us, that hold us back. And so now we're going to be opening to a new truth worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Come with us off the air at Lillian's Radio Show on Facebook.com so that we can hear the off the air conversations. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Neal Barnard when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. And we'll be right here waiting for you. Okay, so
I'll be right here waiting for you.
So now that we're not recording live, we're recording live on Facebook. We have to get muted, and I got muted today. So here is what I want to do, Dr. Barnard. I want to encourage, for those of us that are tuning into Facebook Live, I would love to encourage for the seventh caller, I'm sorry, you could either call or text 407-373-5959. I'm not going to announce this for the radio. I'm just going to announce this for those of you who are watching on YouTube or Facebook Live. The seventh message that I receive will win a free copy of the Vegan Starter Kit because Dr. Neal Barnard is so generous. Dr. Barnard, how is this book doing? Are you getting people going, wow, I didn't realize that there was something out there that can help change my future?
Yeah, I have to say, this has been a funny experience. Every book that I wrote before this has been so big, you could use it to prop open a door. You know, it's big, heavy, detail-oriented books with, and so forth. But I wanted to write a book that was really short and that a person could read in 45 minutes, and then they would have the confidence to start a diet. So what I've noticed is different. I was doing an event the other day, and I did a talk, and afterwards, people were buying books, and I was signing them, which was, you know, that was really nice. And a woman came up with a stack of 10 books, all the exactly the same book. And she said, I need to give these to, here, this is one for my son, here's one for my daughter, here's one for, and she named all these friends who she was hoping would do this. And so that's what I've been seeing with this book, is that people don't buy a book for them. They're buying them as sort of little
gifts, stocking
part of our
stuffers.
propaganda machine to help everybody get healthy together.
Well, you know, there just lately you've been a lot of talk on the fact that not everybody can have a vegan lifestyle. Not everybody can have that. Some people need more meat. Is that something that you've encountered in your research, that some people need more meat?
Yeah, well, nobody does need meat, but there are some people who imagine that they do. We recently wrote a major article for a journal about athletes, because, as you know, a lot of athletes are going vegan. And so some of the athletes have said, no, wait a minute, you know, if I'm going to bulk up, don't I need meat? And this started with the ultra long distance runners, then it was the tennis players like Serena Williams and Novak Djokovic. And then in Formula One, Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One champion, is vegan. But then now it's all the football players with the Tennessee Titans, because they want to have muscles, but they don't want to have flab. So they're going vegan for that reason. So no, the truth is nobody needs meat at all, and we're better off without it.
Yeah.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show / Classroom, where we always learn a new truth. Today's teacher is Dr. Neal Barnard, and we are learning about Alzheimer's. Many of us believe that if it runs in the family, that we're bound to get it. Like we're victims. There's nothing we can do about it. But here's what we inherit. We inherit the family recipes, the way we think, the way we act. We inherit all these things. So that's why I say we need to rewrite the program. We need to rewrite those 70,000 thoughts that reoccur in our head, those 90% of them that are reoccurring, and 80% of them that are negative. We need to rewrite that. So we're going to learn a new truth today about Alzheimer's. And the first question, Dr. Barnard, and thank you so much for being a part of this information that is so useful for all of us, empowering. But is there a difference between Alzheimer and dementia?
Great question. You know, a lot of people get goofed up on what the different words. Dementia is the broader term, and Alzheimer's is one type of it. So dementia means that that you had been functioning okay. You'd been able to balance your checkbooks, and you knew who people were, and you could add up a column of figures, and everything was going fine. And dementia means that you're losing those capacities, but it doesn't tell you why. So Alzheimer's is one reason why. And there are others. You could have a stroke or Parkinson's disease or a medication effect that can lead to dementia. So Alzheimer's is one kind of dementia. And it was discovered more than a century ago by Dr. Alzheimer, who looked in the brain and found these little microscopic sort of meatball-looking things called beta amyloid plaques that were a sign that the brain was being damaged. And it doesn't just mean you have memory problems. Lots of things go bad. You have problems with your memory. You have problems with problem solving. You have difficulties with what's called visual spatial ability. So let's say I'm trying to draw a face, and I get the parts of the face all goofed up. And finally, people's personality will change, where it's just not you anymore. And what that means is that all the different parts of the brain are starting to go south. So it's obviously tremendously disturbing for families. And that's why it's so encouraging when we're discovering that there are actually foods that play a role, foods that I can avoid, and also foods that I can bring in that will be helpful.
Well, I'd love for you to share your experience, Dr. Barnard, with Alzheimer's in your life with your father, if you don't mind taking the time to talk about the emotional aspect for us, as well as, you want to help your family. How did that, share your experience with Alzheimer's, if you don't
Oh, I
mind?
got to tell you, if you made a list of all the things you don't want to get, this is at the top of that list. Actually, my own personal experience began with both of my grandparents, both my grandfathers. My mother's father, he was about 60 when he started to have memory problems. Where he had been a physician in a small Iowa town, and people started noticing that he was having personality changes and memory problems, and he would go off wandering, and it was tragic to see. And then my father's father lived longer, but it started out with telling the same stories again and forgetting what he had just said. Then he couldn't remember the name of his family members, and it just proceeds downhill. And for the last several years of his life, he just sat in a rocking chair, didn't know anybody. And that's what's so devastating about the disease, is you just lose everything and everybody, whoever mattered to you. And then when my father started to have changes, he knew it. He could see what was happening. He was scared to death, but there was nothing he could do, so far as we knew, to stop it. And when he died, his heart stopped beating in 2012, but it was as if he had died 5 or 6 or 7 years before that, because his life as we had known it was just gone. So it can be a devastating illness, but as you have said, flipping on the positive side, we now have some scientific findings that give us a huge measure of control that we didn't have even a few years ago.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that research, because that's basically your strength, is the research as well as other things, but you're very in tune with the research. So share a little bit about the research, and that is empowering and start changing the way we're thinking that we're bound to get it, because I'm sure you're thinking, or you thought, this could happen to me too.
Oh, for sure. And there are genes that can increase the risk. There's a gene called the ApoE epsilon 4 allele. This will not be on the test. But if you got it from one parent, your risk is tripled. If you got it from both parents, your risk is 10 to 15 times higher. So what can you do? Research studies have started to tease out the role of foods. The Chicago Health and Aging Project rounded up people in Chicago. And the first thing they keyed in on was bad fat, saturated fat, which is in cheese or bacon, that kind of stuff. Because that's already implicated in heart disease. And what they found is that those people who ate the least saturated fat, they were not digging into the cheese and the bacon and so forth, their risk of Alzheimer's disease was cut by about 2/3. And a separate study called the Memory and Aging Project brought in a large group of people, and they were looking at what can I add? And they found an amazing thing. Those people who ate the most vegetables, if you had, and the most wasn't a lot, it was about 1 to 2 servings a day, compared to people who just never ate their vegetables. The people who ate 1 to 2 servings a day, it was like rolling back the clock about 11 years.
Wow.
It was subtracting 11 years of aging. So amazing. So, oh, and by the way, which vegetables? The green leafy vegetables were the best. Spinach, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, collards, that kind of stuff. You already know you want them. They're good cancer preventers and so forth, but they also seem to protect the brain. So anyway, that just scratches the surface. We've got about 8 or 10 other foods and food groups that have been tested, and we're going to share them all today.
Yes. And so with changing our diet, we also change other diseases. I remember us talking about diabetes type 3. And so you also mentioned that you can get Alzheimer's because of stroke and Parkinson's, but those are all food related as well, aren't they?
To one degree or another.
Okay.
With regard to diabetes, that's where we are probably best known for our work. And if you take a person, let's say they've got type 2 diabetes, the most common kind, that person's Alzheimer's risk is doubled compared to a person who doesn't have diabetes. So here's what that means. That means I want to change my diet to lose weight and hopefully improve my diabetes, maybe get rid of it. In the process, you're dramatically cutting your risk of ever getting Alzheimer's. And by the way, let me come back to one other thing, Lillian, just real quick.
Yes.
Well, I was just saying a word about bacon and cheese and so forth. And some people will think, great, I'm not going to have bacon for breakfast. I'm going to have a donut instead. because that won't happen. And for all you donut lovers out there, the trans fats in the donuts and some of these breakfast pastries, they're bad too. Back in the Chicago study, they looked not just at saturated fat, they looked at those trans fats, the partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. They take a liquid oil and they pump hydrogen atoms into it. And what they found was that those people who avoided them cut their risk of Alzheimer's by about 80%.
Wow.
So each of these things, you want to avoid the bad fats to be good to your heart, but if you avoid those bad fats, that's the saturated fat in dairy and in meat, and it's those darn trans fats in those snack foods. If you avoid those, you can cut your risk. So we're still scratching the surface. There's lots more that we can do. But if you do nothing more than just those things, you have got huge power to protect your mental functioning into late life.
That's amazing. But this is the information that's not on the media. You don't find this information. Somehow your research, the research that you're quoting, gets lost. And we can empower ourselves by going to PubMed.gov. What are other places that we can find the research, Dr. Barnard?
Yeah, and by the way, it is true that your average person is not aware of this stuff, but that does not mean it isn't carefully conducted research. The studies that I mentioned, the Chicago Health and Aging Project, their work has been published in all the major peer journals. I'm talking about the journal like Neurology, which I mean is a top flight journal. And follow-up studies are now being funded by the U.S. government to put this to the test. And these studies are ongoing now. However, I would encourage people not to wait for more studies to come out. Now is the time to jump in. I did write a book a number of years ago called Power Foods for the Brain, which you and I talked about, and that was my attempt to let people know about some simple steps that they can take.
Very good. Okay, so you talked about trans fat and saturated fat, big no-nos. However, there are fats in avocados. There are fats in coconut. Let's talk about those fats. Are those bad for us as well?
Okay, different fats are different. There always tend to be mixtures. So the fats in avocado, not so high in saturated fat. There's some, but not nearly as bad as, say, a block of cheese, which is, if it were any worse, it would be Vaseline, I got to tell you. However, now let me say a word about coconut. A lot of people are getting onto the coconut bandwagon, thinking, wow, that's got to be better. But you know, if you take a jar of coconut fat, it is so waxy. You could shine your car with it. And in fact, I suggest that's what you do. I wouldn't eat it because it is so high in saturated fat. I'm convinced it's just like butter. And some people say, no, it doesn't raise your cholesterol the way butter does. My read of the literature is it does. And it's from a plant source, but even so, it will raise your cholesterol too. But you know, when people come in for our research studies, we teach them ways that they can cook without adding a lot of grease to their stuff.
Great.
Let's say I'm going to make an Italian pasta. And so you throw grease in the pan and you fry up the oils and the garlic. But you know, you can fry them up in a dry pan, to tell you the truth, or in a little vegetable broth, or in some wine or something like that. You don't have to grease up every darn thing. And when you're not using oils to cook, which our research subjects learn how to do, the first thing they discover is, wow, my kitchen cleanup was so fast because I didn't have all the greasy pans. And then they say, well, wait a minute. It wasn't just the grease in the pans. All that grease didn't go into my body either. So maybe my own personal cleanup is going to be a little bit easier too. You don't. If you're swallowing all the fat, the same stuff that's clogging your drain, it clogs your arteries, and to clean that out is a bit of a job. So I encourage people to get away from the animal fats, to get away from animal products altogether. Mm-hmm. I switched to a completely plant-based diet years ago. Never looked back. It's wonderful, but I like to keep the oils to a minimum too, and to really stick to kind of the healthy, safe, simple foods.
Okay, so if I were to take, and let's say, because the truth, people think, okay, it's a coconut oil or avocado oil or olive oil, they're better than something else. However, if we have the whole food, we're getting the oils with the fiber and the actual fruit. So is that different now if I were to eat a coconut or if I eat an avocado as opposed to just the oil? Is there a benefit?
Absolutely. If you take, say, 50 grams of olives and you compare 50 grams of olive oil, where you extract all the oil, there's probably about 500 calories in the olive oil, but there's just a fraction of that in the olives themselves. The whole foods have the fiber and the pulp and all the other nutrients. That's the way to go. Nature packed it that way. Didn't think that you were just going to pull out one part of it.
Yes. And so there's still that misinformation out there that oil is good for us and that we need it. And in the Mediterranean, they talk about the Mediterranean diet all the time. That may not necessarily be what's best for us. And so this is what we're going to continue talking about. We're talking about Alzheimer's, dementia. We're giving you hope that you can change whatever it is that your people are saying that your DNA has. And so you can go to @Lillian's Radio Show, where we have the conversation off the air on Facebook Live, facebook.com/Lillian's Radio Show. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Neal Barnard about Alzheimer's when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Okay, so for those of you who are watching, you could either call or text or at 407-373-5959, but you don't need to. You can just send me a private message, and the 7th message that I get will get the vegan starter kit. I almost offered it to the people in the radio, but you know, the early bird gets the worm. And so I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Barnard, for that. And
My pleasure.
I just want to share a personal story. I just had, this was back in 2014. I had blood work done, and my ApoE genotyping result was E3E3.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any indication, because for some reason I was told at that time that I did not inherit that gene that I know I can turn off. So do you know anything about this E3? I
do. That's the good one. You could take your genotype and you could sell it on eBay because people would love it. That's the one that puts you at the lowest risk.
So I'm at the lowest risk, but just so that we understand that if I eat a lot of trans fats and if I were to eat a lot of saturated fats, I would turn that gene on, right? Or give myself the risk.
That would, yes. If you were to eat those foods, that would increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease. And I'm glad you said that, Lillian, because I don't want people to think that just because maybe it doesn't go in their family or they don't have that genotype, that doesn't mean they're bulletproof. Our bodies still respond to foods in a negative way. But nonetheless, that's a good result. That's a favorable result. But you still want to eat in a healthy way because the human body is a fragile thing.
Yes.
And things will go bad if we're not careful.
Okay, so little Rosie Sunshine, I believe she's in England. She is asking about coconut milk, Dr. Barnard.
Okay, better. It's better than the extracted coconut oil, for sure.
Okay. Is there anything that's best?
Anything that's best?
Yes. What's the best?
You mean like milk to pour in my cereal or something like that?
Yeah.
Which is the best one. Frankly, all the plant-based milks are okay. Soy milk, I think, is perfectly fine. A lot of people use almond milk or rice milk, or now hemp milk and oat milk is all over the place. Try them, and the one that's best is the one you like. Now, having said that, you don't actually need them at all. The only beverage nature really thinks you actually do have to have is water. After the age of, once breastfeeding is finished, nature says you need water and you need solid food. That's like it.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show / classroom, and you can catch us live worldwide. And now we are broadcasting live on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show. So you can go to facebook.com / Lillian's radio show. And so this is where we take 100% responsibility. This classroom today, our teacher is Dr. Neal Barnard, world renowned, just the most wonderful guy, so generous with his time. He doesn't need to be on this show, but he is. And the reason why is that the information is so empowering that we want everybody to learn this new truth. I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. There are other shows that Dr. Neal Barnard has been on where we talked about these issues that they don't need to occur in our body. I just retweeted or texted or tweeted, because I'm not very good with tweeting or anything like that, but I saw this comment about the healthcare system and how we have the best healthcare system, but nobody can afford it. But what about if we truly teach healthcare by what Dr. Barnard is talking about eating well and about clearing our minds and about exercising and all those things that are so crucial to true healthcare. And it is affordable. Let's talk about the solution, which is for us to take personal responsibility for our life. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. And since we're doing things a little different now, where we're recording the show on Facebook, and then the show airs later on the radio, and you can watch it later on YouTube. If you want to be on the in and on the know, you need to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe, and while you're there, like me and follow me on Facebook. That way you know when the show is going to happen. And you'll also, if you go to YouTube, you click on that, you'll also know when the show is uploaded into YouTube. So let's take 100% responsibility for us and learn things that are valuable for our body and our future health, our health today and our future. And so when you do all that, you become a part of this tribe. It's the HEAL tribe, the healthy eating and living tribe, which you could also become a part of as well. And so one thing I do ask that you do when after you're done subscribing, check out my sponsors like Liberty Health Share. We have First Alternative Care, and we have also Keep Me Safe Organics, where we are looking at things that we're putting into our body and how to take our health back. And so I want to encourage you to support my sponsors the way they are supporting the show. And last, you can, if you don't like social media, or you can go to podcast and you can listen to the show there. I'm on every single one, and you can call or text me. If you have a question about a topic, you can call, text me 407-373-5959. Dr. Barnard, we have listeners from all over, or viewers right now from all over the world, and they are really excited to learn more. One question in particular was type 3. Can you go deeper into type 3 diabetes?
Yeah. Just so the people are with us, type 1 means that the pancreas isn't making insulin anymore. So that means the insulin can't get the sugar out of the blood into the cells because the insulin is gone. Some people have suggested that dairy product consumption early in life causes antibodies to destroy them, just to destroy those cells. Type 2 is much more common. The pancreas is still making insulin, but the cells are resistant to it. And that's caused by fat particles inside the muscle cells and liver cells. And type 3 it's a sort of an informal term that's come up, because what people are saying is inside the brain, insulin is malfunctioning, and it's very much like diabetes, except instead of being involved in the muscle cells and the liver cells where the question is getting glucose into the cells, it's the brain cells are misbehaving, and insulin is not functioning correctly. So the good news is the very same diet that will tackle your type 2 diabetes and help either bring it under better control or maybe get rid of it altogether is also good for what we're calling type 3. It's also good for the brain. And that means we've been talking about food, but let me say a word about lacing up your sneakers, if you don't mind, because exercise is a big thing. It helps a little bit with weight loss, but also when you're eating, you can't eat, when you're running, you can't eat a bowl of ice cream. So researchers at the University of Illinois brought in a group of people who were already having memory problems. This is a first step we call mild cognitive impairment, where names and words are just dropping out of your memory all the time. You can't remember the name of an actor or a friend, you know. That's mild cognitive impairment. They asked these individuals to take a 10-minute walk, brisk walk. Anybody can do, 10-minute walk, 3 times a week. And then the next week they said, make it 15. And then the next week they went up to 20. And then they kept going up 5 minutes per week until they hit a 40-minute walk 3 times a week. And what they discovered, 2 things. Number one, they asked people to do paper and pencil tests. They tested their memory, and their memory was improving day by day by day. More importantly, they did brain scans, and they looked at the hippocampus in the center of the brain. This is the center of memory. The hippocampus decides what should be remembered and what can be forgotten. The hippocampus shrinks as the years go by. But in these people, the people who were getting their exercise and oxygenating their brain and getting the nutrients in their brain and getting the toxins out, the hippocampus was starting, the shrinkage was reversing. It was growing. It was going back to where it had been. So we're not going to live forever. But if we eat healthy foods and we oxygenate our brain with regular exercise, then we believe that we can reverse some of these early memory problems, and we can really put off Alzheimer's disease to a great degree, or maybe never have it at all.
You know, this is so empowering. This information is so empowering. We think that we are victims of our DNA. And even people that have great DNA and handed it to them, if they assault it with a lifestyle that is not good for them, or eating foods that is assaulting the body, it can change that and turn on the DNA. So when you're talking about running, you're talking about moderate. You're not talking about running a marathon every day, right?
Oh, right. In fact, what worked at the University of Illinois study was actually just brisk walking. So brisk walking means it's not a trudge. You're not like just dragging. But it's also not so fast that you can't speak. So I like to run, but you don't have to do that. A good brisk walk, 40 minutes, 3 times a week, was all it took to reverse the shrinkage in the hippocampus and improve memory. If you want to do more, you can do more.
Okay. So with that in mind, we always want to take a pill. My registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. And so let's talk about the vitamin and supplement pills that perhaps we're not getting in our regular food. And so let's talk about that.
Okay. Let me start maybe with one that I would recommend that people should have, and then some where I think the people really don't need. The one that I think everybody should take is vitamin B12. Doesn't matter what brand it is. Doesn't even matter too much what dose it is, because the amount that you need of vitamin B12 is 2.4 micrograms. It's a tiny amount. What do you need it for? Vitamin B12 plays a critical role in the nervous system, all the way from the brain to the spinal cord, and even the tiny little nerves that go to your fingers and your toes. They all need vitamin B12. Mm-hmm. And it's not made by animals, and it's not made by plants. In nature, vitamin B12 is made by bacteria. And so people have said, all right, back before the advent of modern time, the bacteria on the soil or on our fingers would give us the tiny traces of B12. Well, those days are gone. Meat eaters get a little bit from the bacteria that were in the gut of the cow, but hopefully we're avoiding meat and not getting that source. But any drugstore, any health food store sells vitamin B12. It's in every multiple vitamin you ever took. It's fortified in many foods, but you don't want to miss it. So you need it for healthy nerves. You also need it for healthy blood. One other quick word about vitamin D. Mm-hmm. You need that for healthy bones, and also it's a cancer preventive, we believe, and that should come from sunlight. Mm-hmm. But if you live in North Dakota, where I grew up, you're not getting a lot of sun. So if you're in that situation, in that case, you would probably want to take a vitamin B12 supplement, about 2,000 international units a day. That's what most doctors would recommend.
Okay, so what about vitamin E?
Vitamin E, amazing. Vitamin E is an antioxidant that knocks out free radicals. And back in the Chicago study that we're talking about earlier, where bad fats were indicted, it turned out that those people who got the most vitamin E had about a 50% reduction in Alzheimer's risk. But it has to be vitamin E, not in a pill. but in foods, especially nuts. Think almonds, think walnuts, think sunflower seeds. You don't need a lot, just a little handful. Pour it into the palm of your hand. If it hits your fingers, that's more than you need. And now don't stick it in your mouth. Crumble it up and put it on your salad. And the reason I say that is if you crumble up some almonds and put them in your mouth, you're going to refill. Yeah. You know, you just like, they become addicting.
So then that would give you too much fat. Is that what you're implying?
Yeah, exactly. Too much fat, too many calories. You don't need that. But just a little bit of vitamin E, one handful, maybe that's probably about 5 milligrams of vitamin E. Plenty. So use it as an ingredient on your salad.
Very good. Very wise words. You know, we have to be our own advocate. And, you know, who doesn't love nuts, right? Put it in your hands. Just eat one more after another. No, crush it, put it on your salad, put it in your nice cream. And that's not, put it in the nice cream. That's where I want it. And we're going to continue our conversation on and off the air worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Go to facebook.com/Lillian's radio show. And that's where you can find us learning and growing in our classroom. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Neal Barnard about dementia. We'll fly it.
Right here waiting for you.
Okay, thank you so much. For those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, thank you so much. I'd love to hear where you're from. So we have a question regarding omega-3s. Can omega-3s help Alzheimer's?
Okay, the short answer is we don't know. Omega-3s, particularly fish oil, have been tested for everything. And the first thought was they would benefit the heart. But I have to say that's really crashed and burned. It doesn't really look like fish oil benefits the heart. It doesn't seem to reduce the risk of stroke. It's really not useful. But the one area that's not yet clear is whether they might help with Alzheimer's disease or not. The part of the omega-3 that people are focusing on is called DHA. Mm-hmm. And so if you wanted to do that, but you're thinking, well, I don't want to eat the fish because the fish also has cholesterol and it's got fat and it's got mercury and all that kind of stuff. Health food stores or online sell DHA that is vegan sourced, totally clean, zero cholesterol, no fishy smell. So you could take vegan DHA if you want. We still don't know if the DHA is going to prevent heart disease, Alzheimer's disease or not. But the last thing I would say is you can actually get tested. There are test kits. You buy it online. They send it to your house. You put a little drop of blood on the card. You send it back, and they'll tell you your DHA blood level. And if you're low, you can take the pills and go back up. You'll see that. You just type in DHA home test kit, and you can see if you're low. If you're low, a lot of doctors.
Oh, we lost Doctor. Okay, we are frozen here. Is that me or is it Dr. Barnard? Oh, we lost him. Okay, so we might need to take a little break here until we get him back, or is that me? Can you guys see me? Let me see if I'm gonna, yep. I see, let's see. This is what happens when we are recording. Let's see. Oh.
Ah, there we are.
Where you go. Well, I love modern technology. I love modern technology. So let me, okay, let's see. For some reason, my screen isn't opening up. There we go. Here we go. I don't know what's happening to my screen. Let's not get started yet. For some reason, my screen is frozen. Uh-oh. So it might be me. Who knows? I'm causing major trouble here. Okay. So let me see. I can't read the messages when my screen is shut down like this. Oh. Perhaps I need to. I don't want to stop the live stream, but we're going to continue here. Let me see what the chat button says. Let's see. I'll give you the signal to start. I just cannot even Let me see. There we go. Yay. My screen is working now. It needed a little DHA.
Apparently. You need some vitamin E.
Yes.
I just poured some broccoli on it from here. That's what got it going.
Well, I threw some blueberries. How about that?
There you go. We're
Let's
gonna
talk
get that
about
screen
these
working one way or the
wonderful
other.
foods. And so now we can go back. And for those of you who are watching, just be patient with us because I know you have lots of questions. Thank you so much. Oh, we've got listeners from Jordan, Malaysia, England, the United States. So excited. Here we go. We're muting.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show where we always learn from each other. So this is the classroom is open and Dr. Neal Barnard. And you can find Dr. Barnard at PCRM.org. That stands for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And this is where we take also responsibility at whenyouneedafriend.com. We're so like-minded, Dr. Barnard. You know, and I'm so glad that you're setting this trail of research and learning how food is our medicine. It could be, you know, our fork can be a weapon of mass destruction, or it could be a tool to heal every cell of our body. And during the break, we got frozen in time, and you sprinkled some broccoli, I sprinkled some blueberries. So let's talk about the sprinkling of the rainbow and how effective you have been when it comes to making sure that rainbow is known as a healer for our body.
Yeah, researchers at the University of Cincinnati did some really interesting studies. They looked not at the bad fats that we were talking about at the beginning of the show, the saturated fat, the trans fats, and so forth. They didn't look at vitamin E as a protector. They didn't look at vegetables. What they said is, what about fruits? What would they do? Because as you know, let's say I take a grape. It's got that bright purple color. That bright purple color is antioxidants. It's called anthocyanins. So they brought in a group of older people, average age 78. They were already having memory problems, and they said, let's test it. And what they gave them was a cup of grape juice twice a day, so a pint altogether. And what they discovered is over a 3-month period, their memory and recall started to improve. So that seems kind of too easy. It looked like it was the anthocyanins, the antioxidants were helping them by knocking out free radicals that were damaging the brain. But they decided they needed to put it to more tests. So they said there are also anthocyanins in other foods like blueberries. Let's test that. So they brought in a new group of adults, average age 76 years of age, and they found exactly the same results. Over a 3-month period, recall gets better and the ability to learn is improved as well. So I don't think the answer here means every day start your day off with sausage and bacon and hash browns and then have some blueberry juice. What it really means is that if we, hopefully not, if what we do is these foods are front and center every day, we think about color. So it might be blueberries or grapes for anthocyanins, but it can also be carrots have beta carotene. That orange color is an antioxidant too. And lycopene is the red color in a tomato or a watermelon. All of these antioxidants go into your body. They knock out free radicals, which are molecules that form as sort of like the exhaust, the factory exhaust that each cell produces. If you knock them out, it can slow down the aging process. So we want to make sure that we're not missing these colorful fruits and vegetables because their natural compounds will help protect us.
Yes. And, you know, I have done quite a few shows, just like you, Alzheimer, dementia. Dementia has affected my life through my mom. And it's very painful to watch someone you love knowing that I can just force feed her some blueberries or maybe do something to help. But at this point, I'm being told, you know, just back off. And it's not always just back off. It's, okay, what can I do for myself? Maybe I can't help my mom. Maybe I can't help those that don't want to help themselves, but I can do something about me. So one of the things that I've learned in researching dementia, and perhaps maybe you have a different, but you keep talking about it. So I just want to say it, that many people that are diagnosed with this early, memory loss or mild cognitive, and we think gloom and doom, it's going to be dementia, Alzheimer, whatever, that many of us have malnutrition. And perhaps maybe even stress. So the statistic that came up, the first show that I ever did on Alzheimer's and healing it naturally, was that 70% of people that get this diagnosis they don't have dementia, that they have poor nutrition. And maybe let's talk about medications that might cause, chemicals in the brain, or let's talk about sleep and lack of sleep and how that
You said it, absolutely, 100%. So many people don't sleep very well, and partly that's because we're busy and we're stressed out, but also there are kind of seductions out there. There's one great TV show after another, and pretty soon it's 1 a.m, and you've been watching them, or you're reading a book, or you're on the web. There's a million reasons to stay up and not go to sleep, but my own rule is 10:00. When the clock strikes 10, I turn off the light and go to sleep.
You become Cinderella?
I got to tell you,
you turn into a pumpkin.
It works wonders for me. No. I don't wait till midnight. I go to sleep about 2 hours before that.
Oh, that's right. Cinderella was midnight. It's been a while.
Yeah. She was kind of late by my standards.
Yes.
The other thing is, let me tell you just a little anecdote. There's a doctor in Florida. His name is Dwayne Gravelin.
Oh, I love
He was working for NASA. He was a physician and also an astronaut in training. Drives home one day, gets to his house, and there's a woman standing outside his house. And he says, basically, may I help you? She says, what do you mean, Dwayne? Can you help me? He says, yeah, who are you? Can I help you? She says, Dwayne, I'm your wife. Mm-hmm. He didn't recognize his own wife. She sticks him in the car. They go to the emergency room and say, my husband is having this huge memory gaps. He's forgotten his own wife and whatever. So anyway, they started testing him, and they found all kinds of memory problems that had come out rather suddenly. The only thing they could think of was he had started taking a statin drug for his cholesterol level. And so they stopped the statin, not sure if it would help, but his memory came back 100%. But so did his high cholesterol. So they restarted the statin drug. It was Lipitor, atorvastatin. They restarted it, and in about a month, his memory was wiped out. Everything after age 13 was gone. So they threw away the statin again. His memory gradually came back, and he went to the FDA and said, there's a problem with this drug that you need to know about. Yeah. And let me be clear, lowering cholesterol is a good thing, and there is a role for cholesterol-lowering medications. But 90% of people on statins got their cholesterol, their high cholesterol, it came from their breakfast, really. It came from their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because they're eating high-fat, high-cholesterol foods that push their cholesterol levels up. And so they probably would never have needed a statin if they had eaten differently. So anyhow, long story short, not just statins, but many other medications can, in some cases, not all cases, but some cases, cause memory problems, including problems of memory in people who were in a nursing home, diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, who got better once they found out that it was the medication causing it. They stopped taking the medication, they packed their bags, they went home, and they were okay. So here's the message. If you or anybody has a sudden change in your mental status, go into the bathroom and open up the medicine cabinet and think about what is new there. And sometimes it can be a combination where you're now taking an antibiotic and an acid blocker and an antihypertensive and this and that and the other thing. And good doctors have learned that medications they're really the first place you want to look with any sudden change in mental status.
And there's that class action suit. So for those of us that are conscious about eating, it sounds like to me, Dr. Barnard, you're giving us really good news. You're saying that if we eat a whole food, plant-based, and in this case, vegan lifestyle, that we would eliminate needing any medication in our medicine cabinet.
The likelihood of needing it goes way, way, way down.
Yeah.
Don't cancel your next doctor's appointment because you may need some medical care, and some people do need medication. However, when we get away from the animal products, keep oils low and eat foods as natural as possible. We can open up the arteries again. We can reverse heart disease. Our work has shown that we can do the same for diabetes for many people. And the new frontier is the brain. We now have the tools, we believe, to dramatically reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. My own guess is that we can probably either prevent or greatly delay 80% of these cases so that families can stay together. And that's the most important thing of all.
Dr. Barnard, I love having you on the show. You present such great, compelling, science-based information. I want to encourage all of you to go to pubmed.gov, go to pcrm.org to learn more about what we can do to take our health back. You can take a pill, you can take responsibility, and it's time to take 100% responsibility. Thank you, Dr. Barnard, for everything that you're doing. I'm hoping that maybe you can stay with us just a little bit longer after the show, just to answer any questions that people might have. But please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Neal Barnard wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. You're the best ever. Okay, so Gab.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
This is great, Dr. Barnard. We have Gabby, who said that, Dr. Barnard, you really inspired me to have a healthy lifestyle. I love your work, your website. So congratulations. If we could just one person, but what about the rest of you who are watching today? Will you share this? Will you share? Will you like it? Will you forward it to your friends, the people you love? Will you do that to help us grow the show? Dr. Barnard, is there anything that we didn't touch upon during the show that you feel is crucial to our health that you'd like to share?
Just one last thing that we didn't touch on, but in the role of memory, I do want people also to think about some things that they might be getting too much of. Iron and copper are sometimes added to multiple vitamins. If we're using too much iron cookware, we've got copper pipes, be careful about that. You might be getting too much of these metals, and that can increase the risk too. Some people would say that probably the same is true with aluminum. So it's okay to wrap up a sandwich in aluminum foil, but on the other hand, if you're taking aluminum antacids, using aluminum cookware, probably too much. So that would be the other thing that I would share with people. The last thing is maybe just more general. I hope people will not just protect their own health. I hope they'll share this information with other people in their lives, because for all those people who are tuning into the show, they know somebody who hasn't heard this message yet, and we need to share that information far and wide. So I hope we could go as wide as we can.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that for every show like mine that is out there, for every doctor like you that is out there, there are 1,000 that are saying the opposite. And now with the censorships on Facebook and all of that, who knows what truths they will allow. And it's really scary to me to know that if only, and I am for stopping misinformation, but the misinformation that they are trying to stop is the new truth that's out there, that we can reverse our health, that we can take our health back by the way we eat, by the way we exercise, by the way we think. And Dr. Barnard, you're doing such a great job to making sure that that voice is heard, that it's not a lonely voice. And for people, okay, so Dr. Barnard is giving away the vegan starter kit for those of you. It's a quick read. It's a great little book. It's everything you need to know about plant-based eating. We're not talking about veganism. That's the fake plants and all the, the isolated soy protein. Can you say anything about that? Does that hurt with dementia, the isolated soy protein?
I think, I'm guessing it probably does not relate to dementia. At least I'm certainly hoping so.
Okay.
And for some
the
people,
the fake meats, you see that soy isolate.
Well, think of that as methadone. A person who's hooked on meat, and then they'll have then the
Suboxone.
That's your methadone. That's gonna get you off your addiction. And then as time goes on, people go to simpler and simpler foods.
Yeah, and that's true. Okay, so if anybody would like to share, you can always go to Dr. Barnard's website, and it's pcrm.org. Dr. Barnard, thank you so much for everything that you're doing to help us and empower us to take our health back. So thank you.
Well, as always, Lillian, thank you for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you. And for you, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook Live, please help us grow the show. Like us, follow us, give us a thumbs up. You can also, Dr. Barnard is also in Facebook as well. Lots of powerful information. What will you do about it? It's time to share. Thank you, Dr. Barnard. And
Thanks, Lillian.
okay, take care. Till next time.
See you soon.
Okay, bye. Stop the live stream. And